What's up, warriors? Welcome back to another episode of the Suburban Warrior podcast. I'm your host, Chrissy Pfeiffer, here again this week with an awesome warrior here to share his story and expertise with us today. So let me introduce to you Jason Nelson. He is a personal trainer with one simple mission: to delay the onset of chronic disease while preserving strength, metabolic health, and cognitive function, so people can build bodies that support the life they've worked hard to create now and for decades to come. Welcome to the podcast, Jason.
Thank you, Chrissy, and thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to get into our conversation today because obviously with my audience being, women in midlife, we have an overload of information being thrown at us about muscle mass, metabolic health, what we should be lifting, how much we should be lifting, how much protein we should be eating. And then, of course, there's the conversation around all the GLP-1s and muscle mass and that sort of thing. So I know we're going to get into all those topics today, which I think are really important topics for us to be talking about and educating ourselves about. But first, I'd love to hear a little bit more about you because I understand you're from Trinidad. And so I'd love to hear your story of, sort of how you made it to where you are now in New York and what brought you into personal training.
Oh, this is going to be a long story, but I'm going to try and keep it
I like it.
As succinct and entertaining as possible. So I scored really well on my secondary entrance examination in Trinidad. So they sent me to the west of the island. Now, I'm from the south, and seeing that I'm from the central part of the island, and seeing that Trinidad could fit into New York about 30 times, it doesn't seem like a big trek, right?
Yeah.
But to an 11-year-old kid, it was.
Sure.
So I get to this school where there's a lot of brilliant kids, but it was an interesting mix because the boys there were very, not regular brilliant kids. They were they had a lot of bullies out there. So it was hard for me to fit in. And the lifestyle in the West and the lifestyle in the central part of the island, it's a bit different. So this was me trying to navigate my way through middle school, and there was no one group that I squarely belonged to, because then there were the academics, there were the guys who played sports, there were the guys who were bullies. I'm kind of like in the mix, trying to find myself and my identity. I was like, I'm an athlete, so I'm going to play some sports. I was good, but I was really small. I didn't hit puberty yet. I was the smallest in my class. So, you might be good, but you get guys who are outweighing you, who are outmuscling you. You don't look like anything. And then one day these guys were arm wrestling. And I thought, hey, I have a big brother. I'm strong. And literally, these guys were crushing my arms on the table. I'm like, damn, this sucks.
Yeah.
So there was no entry point into gaining some respect. Okay. Yeah. So my dad at that point in time was a sales trainer, and regularly he would have people come to the house, his agents, and he would, hold meetings in the living room. I don't know how my mom allowed this, but that happened, right? So one day I'm home from school and there's this barbell set hanging out in the living room. And I'm like, One of my dad's agents, I'll never forget this, a tall black guy, his name was Peter. He sees me looking at this thing. But no, I'm seeing it in muscle magazines. I was always fascinated with muscle. And he comes across, he said, hey, if you do this, and he signals a bicep curl, your arms will get stronger.
Oh. I was like, exactly what you were looking for.
Precisely, right? He read my mind. And I did it. I had no idea the structure or the sets or the reps or what have you. I just did this thing for some months. And later, some time after, these boys were back to arm wrestling again. And I was like, let me put this thing that I was doing to the test.
Yeah.
I got on the table, and guys who were crushing my arms were looking at me like this.
Wow.
And they're like, dude, what's going on? I used to beat you. I'm like, you're beating me right now, you know?
Yeah.
And that day, that just lit a fire that would last a lifetime.
Wow.
I'm like, if I could do this without any structure and it worked out well, how can I keep applying this to the rest of my body?
Yeah.
And that was my entry point into fitness for myself personally.
Such a formative experience, right?
Yeah, it was. It was. And then when I moved to the States, how I started helping people was I got into corporate fitness. And you know the corporate world is. It's numbers, it's production. And I'm like, wow, this is a lot. People were coming to me to help them with other issues, like not only the physical aspect. They needed diets, they needed this, they needed that. And I'm like, I can't serve you like how I would like to. Because I got to do this other thing to keep my job and keep the company happy. Right. So I started doing some coaching on the side, and it just wasn't working out. And I launched my company, Body Image, back then.
Yeah.
And with the goal of really serving people on a deeper, more granular level. That way, if I ran my own thing, we could talk for an hour, hour and a half. I could really get to know the person, have them feel safe, and really get a deeper dive into their health and how I could actually help them. And that shaped my practice from then to this day.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. That's wonderful. And yeah, I mean, that's really what it takes in order to help someone, right? Like you have to be sitting down and having those conversations that last like an hour, hour and a half to really deep dive and understand each individual, what their needs are, what they're going through, what their habits are, what their diet is. I mean, it takes those deep dive conversations in order to really get into it.
Yeah, 100%. Because, you know, it's like peeling the layers of an onion.
Yes.
When I've always learned that on the fifth why, you actually get the reason why.
Yes.
It's like, I want to lose weight. Why I want to lose weight? Well, I want to look better. Why you want to look better? Well, it's this. Why is that? And then you keep, changing the way you ask why, because you don't want to, become too, you don't want to become like a lawyer or a cop or something, right? You don't want to make somebody feel intimidated, but changing the way you ask the same question, you start getting to that deeper cause. Well, it's because of something that may have happened early on in their childhood or in high school or bad marriage, some type of trauma that led this person to believe in that if they change this thing physically, they'll feel better mentally. So it's really having that person feel, again, safe with you. They're able to share with you, and then you could really get to the reason why. And that helps out when that person starts derailing or moving away from the objective. Like you could use that thing and anchor them back to their journey and back to their purpose.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And you mentioned that like throughout your career, you noticed that women tend to approach their health, a little bit differently, with like a little bit more care and intention and discipline than men. But yet with women, we often face this, sort of like, you mentioned like incomplete and outdated solutions that we get, which is sort of like, hopefully the tides are turning on that a little bit, but I still think we have a long way to go. So talk to me a little bit about that and like sort of what you see, and what's different with women and why we have this, we want to care for our bodies and we're obviously caring for everybody else too, but like we're often met with these outdated solutions that don't address the holistic person, like the appetite, energy, hormones, muscle loss, like metabolic health, everything that we're dealing with.
Well, women, the number one complaint I get when women come and they sit with me is that they feel dismissed by their doctors.
Yeah.
Like their doctors, don't really take the time to hear them out. And I feel that can be true. It could also be true that traditional medicine doesn't know how to dig deeper.
Yeah.
Right? They just know to treat downstream symptoms as opposed to trying to, go a couple steps higher and actually fix the thing. And, when it comes to women and men, women always complain that, well, my husband, he stopped eating bread. He already lost 10 pounds. And I'm doing all of this and I'm still stuck. And, women just have so much more moving parts.
Yeah.
Especially once they start entering perimenopause and menopause than men. Their physiology is more complex. So it takes a different detailed approach to get them the solution that they want. And another thing too, as I said before, having somebody who has struggled with their health or their weight, have them feel safe and comfortable. Because if somebody doesn't feel like they could open up or their bodies could actually achieve this thing, the tactics just fall flat.
Yeah.
It starts with that understanding and that belief.
Yeah. So we know now, we're being told that obviously the maintaining muscle mass, growing muscles in midlife for us is so important. And it's really a complete 360 of what we were told in the 90s and the 2000s when women were just like hardcore cardio, everything you could do to just sweat and get your heart rate up. Don't lift weights because you'll bulk up, So the message has definitely shifted. Let's talk a little bit about that, about the importance of maintaining muscle mass and improving our muscle mass in midlife.
Well, if we had, let's say, a sink, and the sink would represent your bloodstream, and you would have put some colors in there, and that would represent the glucose in your bloodstream. If I were to take a small sponge, I could take up some of that and remove some of that liquid from the sink. If I use a bigger sponge, I could remove a whole lot more. Yeah. Right? So when we look at muscle, we look at it as an endocrine organ, right? Something that really preserves and sets the stage for your metabolism. Because the more muscle you have, the more glucose disposal sites are on your body. So that's the primary thing. It helps maintain your metabolism. Number two, it loads the bones. As you start to get older, women need to ensure that your bone health is prioritized. Beyond that point, it serves as armor for the body. In case of fall, it protects against its fall protection, right? As you get older, you tend to may get more fragile. Muscle helps to cushion that fall if it should ever happen. And number four, when you look at longevity studies, you look at strong social connections. For you to maintain strong, robust social connections, you need to be able to move around more. Yeah. You're not going to be using a walker or being in a wheelchair and have friends that hike and bike and do all the other good stuff. So first things first, muscle helps your metabolic health. Then it keeps your bones stronger. It protects you against falls. And then it gives you the opportunity to be more and do more.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so specifically, for women in midlife, how hard is it to maintain or increase muscle mass? Because, I know I'm 51. I lift pretty heavy weights these days, and I feel like I'm barely maintaining. I'm trying really hard, and I feel like I'm doing the most. I do a lot, but I think it's hard. So is it hard, or am I just doing the wrong things? How difficult is it for women in midlife to be maintaining muscle mass, and why? And can we change that?
I like you and I don't want to hurt your feelings.
That's okay. You say whatever you want.
I will.
Shoot straight.
I'm sitting in the office of my facility right now, right?
Yeah.
Where we do the coaching, we do training, we do everything in here. And I can tell you, I have women who are over 60 that are crushing it.
Yeah.
That are deadlifting much more than they weigh. They're able to do pull-ups for the first time, 20, 30 push-ups in a clip, chest to the floor. And it is hard, but everything is hard until you know what to do. Then it becomes easy.
Oh, that's
right?
very true. Very true.
So if you are doing everything, you say your diet is in check and your protein intake is in check and your sleep is in check and all these other factors that go into building muscles in check. Now we need to look at the method.
Yeah.
Okay. So for someone, for instance, if you are like yourself, an experienced trainee, so you don't have to go through the initial phases where you have to improve joint stabilization and mobility and flexibility and all the other stuff that needs to get done. The foundation needs to get laid before you get onto a more advanced program. What we would look at is how you are loading your body in terms of intensity and how you are structuring your workouts. If you are doing more compound lifts, if you're training the body as a whole on one day, if you are doing body part training, all these things play a real important part in how fast you progress. Because a lot of times you would see bodybuilding programs that are used for women trying to increase muscle mass. And it doesn't work like that unless you're dedicating 6 days a week to training.
Right.
Who has time to do that if you have a family and a career?
Yeah,
Nobody has time to do that. Right? Yeah. So learning how to load the body, the moves that you are using, giving yourself enough recovery between your workouts, and sometimes, most of the times, more intensity, more recovery gives you more results, gives you better results.
Interesting. That's probably where I'm going wrong. I think I do more compound full body workouts and I probably need to start shifting to more shorter workouts, more intensity, higher weights, more recovery in between.
Definitely. And the compound total body workouts are fine. The intensity must be maintained. And once the intensity is maintained, you're only going to have a certain amount of juice in the tank before you succumb to fatigue.
Right.
Exactly. Leave it all on the weight floor, recover well, and you're going to make progress. 100%.
Yeah. Okay. It's good advice. So let's talk about GLP-1s and weight and muscle loss. Because obviously that's the big thing with GLP-1s, especially for women or anyone, that is pushing the dose high and losing a lot of weight rapidly, and then they tend to lose muscle mass because they're losing weight in general. So I want to talk about that and what that looks like. But then I also want to talk about people that might be microdosing GLP-1s and how does that affect muscle loss. So let's talk about the first one, like people that have lost muscle because of rapid weight loss.
Well, I would say that when we were approached to use GLP-1 in our practice, I was very skeptical at first. It took me about 9 months looking at research and looking at, listening to different podcasts, different experts, watching papers, the whole thing. And I said, listen, I think by the year 2030, they predict that 1 in 2 people are going to be using a peptide or a GLP-1.
Yeah.
People are going to be using this. So how can we help them so that they don't, hurt themselves? Because I believe the fitness facilities of the future would be focused on muscle preservation and ensuring that people don't become fragile. So I think that the misuse of GLP-1s is going to swing the pendulum too far on the other side. And I think that's another conversation, but we just need to look at that and be mindful of what's happening on that side. When it comes to muscle loss and GLP-1, I felt that the media did a poor job in the words that they choose. I hear all the time it's 40%. 40% muscle mass That's not the case.
Yeah.
Lean tissue, skeletal muscle mass is very different. So yes, you could lose up to 40% of the weight on a GLP-1 from lean tissue, lean mass. That does not say skeletal muscle mass. So we need to just differentiate between the two. It's like looking in your refrigerator and thinking all liquids are milk. All right. We need to kind of separate that.
Yeah.
Now, on a GLP-1, what we spoke about before, the intensity of the strength training must be about 80 to 85%. What does that look like? Well, that looks like 8 to 10 reps.
Yeah.
And now we're using those same compound movements that we just spoke about to stress the system as a whole so that the body realizes we need to keep the skeletal muscle mass. Because again, skeletal muscle mass goes down, your metabolism goes down. So you will lose the weight while you're on the drug.
Yeah.
But when the drug comes off, the rebound is going to be crazy.
Right.
You will even gain, there's research that shows you'll gain even more weight post therapy, post using the GLP-1.
Yeah.
Right? And then there's the thing about protein intake, right? It does help. It does help preserve lean muscle mass. But what we need to understand is with increased protein intake, we need to optimize digestion, both mechanical and chemically. Because if we can't break down those proteins into the amino acids the body could use, you're just going to have expensive poops.
Yeah.
Right? So another thing that we look at is optimizing testing stomach acid.
Yeah.
Because if your stomach acid is low, you're not going to break down protein.
That's
right?
very, very true. Yeah. I mean, you can eat it all you want, but if it's not getting to the cells, if it's not getting where it needs to be, you're not getting the benefit of it.
You're not getting the benefit of it. Correct.
Yeah.
So, optimal strength training, protein intake, and then we look at micronutrient deficiencies. Because the reason why we got here in the first place is because we were overfed and undernourished.
Yes. Right.
So now we have no food. We have less food, 50% less food. We run the risk of becoming malnourished.
Yeah.
So we're looking at the micronutrients that was devoid from the diet when we were eating 5 and 6 times a day to begin with.
Right.
Now we're just barely getting protein and possibly some fiber. We are going to be short in these critical elements to preserve health and muscle.
Do you recommend taking digestive enzymes along with, your meals, since like we were talking about, especially with the proteins, to help break down the food to get it where it needs to be?
Yes, so we have a protocol that we use that tests your level of stomach acid using those digestive enzymes that contain 200 milligrams of betaine, ATI, and then there's some ox bile and some protease and some other compounds in there to help break down plant material and fats as well. Yeah. And we would test that to ensure that you're at the right level, because sometimes everybody's level of stomach acid is different. Some people might be supported with 1 pill, some people might be supported with 4 or 5 pills, and then we may have to switch to something that's a little stronger.
Right.
Right? So that's that. And then we strongly we recommend people chew their food thoroughly.
Yeah, that is a really big one.
Right.
I'm trying to always remind my family. They inhale their food. I'm like, you got to chew. You got to break it down. First line of defense.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I went to a human optimization thing in a restaurant, and they're speaking about all these advanced things, and everybody's just like scoffing down their food. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm looking around. I'm not judging, right? I'm not judging.
Of course not. Of course not.
But I saw one person actually took 14 chews before they actually swallowed the food. I was like, okay, I mean, we recommend 20, again, based on what you're eating. But I was like, okay, that's not bad. Everybody was at like 5 or 6.
Yeah. Because when you really do focus on it and you sit there and you do count like 20 chews, you feel like it's forever, because I think none of us are used to chewing our food that much. We just literally eat so fast. For whatever reason, it's cultural. We're on the go. We finally sit down and eat. We're just chewing and swallowing, chewing and swallowing. So chewing your food, and if you actually try it chewing 20 times, it feels like you are really chewing your food.
It feels like forever. And I believe that if we really sat and chew that much, I think that we more than likely wouldn't have that much of a weight issue, because that gives the body enough time, the satiety hormones to kick in. So it's like you will eat less by chewing more. Huh. Who knew, right?
I know. So simple.
Yeah, so simple. And your second question was around microdosing, correct?
Yes, correct.
We currently have...
Well, let me ask you this first. Do you microdose?
Personally?
In your clinic?
My clinic?
No, not like for you, but like in your clinic. Do you microdose?
Yes, we
GLPs?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We microdose.
Okay. And when would you microdose? Like where do you see those benefits of microdosing? For what type of client?
What type of client? For the client that comes off the higher protocol GLP-1, higher dosage GLP-1 protocol, usually we taper them back down. And sometimes if they're having a bit of an issue, we would microdose them. And what I found was those that have to microdose are usually those that haven't had, that has gut issues.
Okay.
So usually if somebody has poor gut scores, they would have to microdose a bit while we work on, stabilizing and optimizing the gut so that the weight loss sticks a little better.
Okay.
All right. So, that just helps to keep the cravings down and just keep your blood glucose in check.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, it's temporary. It's not a permanent solution.
Yeah. And are you seeing any muscle loss with microdosing?
No, none whatsoever.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Well, that's good news, at least, right?
Yeah. Again, and microdosing could be, everybody has a different standard for what microdosing is.
Yeah.
So the lowest dose on the first protocol, peptide protocol, is 2.5.
Right.
So microdose could be anywhere from like 0.5 to 1.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And we haven't seen any muscle loss with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. So for women that are, looking to increase their muscle mass or even maintain, what do you think is the first thing that they could be doing to help with that?
Start training. Yeah.
And by training, you mean lifting weights.
Yeah. Start doing some heavy weight training. Get somebody who could design a program properly for you. And if you have problem executing it, have someone help you or supervise you. Get a coach, get a trainer.
And when you say heavy weights, let's just sort of clarify what heavy is, because just like the microdosing, heavy could be very different for everyone. So what is heavy?
80 to 85% of your 1 rep max. That will equal between, let's say, 8 to 12 reps.
Okay.
So you want to be able to get to 8 to 12 without having too much reps in the tank. If you could get to 15, the weight is too light, add some more, bring it back down.
Got it. If you can only do 4, it's too heavy. If you can do 15, it's too light.
Correct.
Gotcha. So somewhere in that sweet spot.
And, if you are experienced and you have an experienced coach with you, 4 reps is not bad.
Okay.
Right? Because 4 reps is so taxing. It sends a signal to the nervous system that, hey, this person needs this muscle to move this load.
Yeah.
It's a very strong signal. And that is what women used to be scared of back in the day, right? That will get them bulky.
Yes. Right. Absolutely.
That is not the case. The hypertrophy signal has to have a little bit of lactic acid in it. The strength signal doesn't. So when you send in a strength signal to the body, there must be no burning in the muscle.
Yeah.
Hypertrophy requires burning because then that sets off the cascade of adding on more muscle mass, bringing in more satellite cells, but the strength signal is just clean.
Yeah.
There's no white noise in it.
Yeah, I love that. That's a good point. So if you are doing that, which I don't think a lot of women are, I think women, even though we're being told to lift heavy, I do think a lot of women are still lifting weights, but doing it more so like heavier than they were, but not to the point where they're doing like 4 reps. And I'm speaking in generalities. Obviously, there are women that are doing this. But so if you are doing really heavy weights, you're maxing out, you're doing like 4 to 8 reps, how many times a week should you be doing each body part? Like if you're doing upper body, how many times a week do you do that?
So let me structure your training program of what it looks like, what we've seen worked well here, right? Would that answer your question?
Sure, absolutely.
Right. So 3 times a week.
Okay.
Right? If you're pressed for time, twice could work if you get it done right.
Okay.
You would have variations of a squat. Let's say a back squat or a split squat. Doesn't need to be a back squat, Swiss squat. Deadlift, Romanian deadlift, hip thrust.
Yeah.
Presses, both horizontal and vertical and horizontal. Rows, same thing. Horizontal, vertical. If you were to do 2 leg exercises, compound, and 2 compound upper body exercises for 3 to 4 sets, that would suffice 3 times a week.
Wow. Yeah, that's not really, that sounds totally doable.
Totally doable. So the thing is, why the session would still take about 45 minutes is that in order to get to that heavy loads, you need to keep prepping your body. You need to warm up. You need to, subsequent warm-up sets would be very important so that you don't have the risk of injury and the nervous system is primed to move that load.
Yeah, you're just not walking into the gym, picking up a heavy load, squatting 4 times and walking out.
Not at 50, at 19 probably.
Yeah, exactly. True, very true.
At 19, yeah. At 50, man. You need to grease up those joints, right?
Yes, for sure.
And that would suffice. And that's the program we use. I can tell you as it is. Like, I've seen women lose weight with it using GLP-1s and became stronger.
Yeah.
Became stronger. Like, that does not happen in somebody who has been training for a long period of time. There's this adaptation period where the nervous system, for a new trainee, it's 5 to 15%. For an advanced trainee, it's 2 to 5%. In the beginning, that strength gains comes from better motor unit synchronization, rate coding, better technique. But for somebody who's been in the gym, strength gains comes from preserving your muscle mass, becoming more efficient with the lift, and increasing your muscle mass.
Yeah.
It's a different ball game with 2 different trainees. So if we could achieve that while using a GLP-1 protocol, it's totally doable.
Yeah. And your GLP-1 protocols are specifically for women that need to lose more weight. You're not using it for inflammation or metabolic health overall. Like, you're using it strictly for weight loss.
Yes, because I mean, you will get some metabolic health benefits and some reduced inflammation. Honestly, what I've seen, because GLP-1 is only one of the peptides that we use.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? It's
what
only
other peptides do you use? Not you specifically, but I'm not asking for your personal peptide regimen, which you're free to share if you would like. But really, like, what you're using in your practice.
So we have NAD+, Samarelin, deep sleep peptides, GHKCU, BPC-157, TB-500, Lipo-B, Lipo-C, there's about 10 or 12 peptides that we have. And what I've seen is for inflammation, and this might sound a little different, BPC-157 works the best here.
Yeah.
Right? It works the best here. I also see a lot of inflammation reduction by the use of NAD plus.
Okay.
And I think the reason for that is once you support the mitochondria and they get more efficient at producing energy, the body works more efficiently as a whole. Right? Once the cells could produce more energy, the recovery window shrinks. Very important for somebody over 50 and for somebody on a GLP-1 program who's eating less food.
Yes, yes.
You run the risk of becoming macronutrient deficient. The NAD plus works well here. So sometimes we combine it, not every time, but the microdose of the GLP-1, yes, we have used it to control glucose and have used it to curb cravings post coming off a high dosage.
Yeah. So I have a question about just sort of the NAD plus, because obviously you're using it for mitochondrial energy. You're at the cellular level. Amazing. All for that. But what happens when you stop it? Like, or do you cycle it? Like, how are you using it? Like, does the mitochondrial benefits continue when you're not on it? Is it something that is sustained? Is it something you just take forever?
Well, I could tell you personally.
Okay, yeah, great.
You would have to cycle it because after you get a boost, you could stop it and the boost lasts for a while. And then you experience the dip. So yes, it's something, because as you get older, your mitochondria is not the same.
Totally.
So once you give it this fuel, it's like,
this feels nice. I like
right?
this. It's like a little gas in the engine.
Exactly. But what I've noticed personally, and this is feedback from myself and feedback from some of my clients, NAD works best with better metabolic health, with a low carb diet.
Of course. Yeah.
So if you're on a low carb diet, it takes less to get the job done.
Okay.
And you could have someone with a little more insulin resistance and on a higher carb diet, and the NAD just falls flat. You're like, this is not doing anything for them.
Interesting.
So it's not the first play that you would use when somebody's feeling tired.
Yeah.
All right. And also when it comes to cellular health, we got to think about cellular membranes, which is something that I feel like I don't hear much about, especially for women, menopausal women who stop producing estrogen, who produce very little estrogen, because the estrogen stimulates something called phosphatidylcholine, which keeps the cell membranes healthy. Remember, if you're prompting a cell to produce energy, there are waste products building up in that cell as well. So we need to keep that cell membrane fluid so stuff could go in and out. So peptides, for anybody listening, peptides can be part of the plan. Peptides are not the plan.
Right. Yeah, I love that.
Right?
Absolutely. Just another little tool in the toolbox.
Exactly. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question? Did that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
And to add to that, there's you could pair it with another peptide called MOTC.
Yep.
And then on top of that, you could add urethylene A, which helps with mitophagy. So the MOTC helps protect the mitochondria from oxidative stress. The NAD helps the mitochondria produce ATP, the energy currency. MOTC protects the mitochondria. Urethylene A helps with mitophagy, removing all the dead cells and keeping the engine running well.
Yeah, I love that. Well, that's a nice little protocol right there, Jason.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I really do appreciate it and really loved our conversation, because I think this topic of muscle mass, how to keep it, how to build it, is so important. And also, I mean, the conversation around peptides, it's just, I find it so fascinating. And I think there's just so many options out there. And really, I think the most important thing is, like you said, there is not just one thing, right? There's no magic bullet. There's no magic pill that is going to all of a sudden make us feel better. It takes work. We all want longevity, but we have to kind of work at all the pieces in order to help ourselves live long, beautiful, healthy lives and increase our health span, not just our lifespan, right?
Yes, definitely. And we need to ensure that we work on the foundations first.
The foundations first.
Because
Absolutely.
you can't build a strong second floor. It's just going to crash.
Yeah.
Right?
I love that analogy. It's so true. Well, Jason, tell my listeners where they can find you.
All right, you guys could find me at bodyimage.health.
Okay.
So newly redesigned website, so it should be looking pretty cool.
Awesome.
And you can find me on Instagram at jnelson0580. That's JAY Nelson 0580. Connect with me. Let's chop it up. Let's have a conversation.
Awesome. I love that. Well, thank you again for being here. And guys, thank you for listening and tuning in this week to the Suburban Warrior podcast. Don't forget to give us a like, a comment, leave a review. We would love to hear what you think of this episode. And if you found this helpful, make sure you share it with a friend, because that is what is important for us to be doing, sharing this information with friends so we can all benefit from this fabulous expert info that we have here on the podcast. So we'll talk to you next week. Until then, have an amazing week ahead. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.